Thank you both for joining us. Let me begin, Marissa, by asking you what it was like to hear all of these women tell their stories in court, knowing that you and your colleagues were the first to air that allegation so long ago now.
Just really impressed by the strength and resilience that they showed and appreciation for the trust that they placed in us to share their stories.
And Tim, now we're all aware of the Me Too movement, and I think it's probably easier for women to come forward with allegations like this and be believed. But when Rachel first came to you, no one had believed her to that point. What investigative steps did you take to try to determine what was behind her story?
Well, we certainly believed Rachel. She was very convincing. She had medical records. She had things very organized. And so that gave us confidence going forward. But then we looked into Dr. Nassar, who we hadn't been investigating as part of our ongoing project looking at USA Gymnastics. And we couldn't find any criminal conduct, any lawsuits, any professional complaints. So we knew we had an uphill battle if we were going to accuse this man of sexually assaulting a young woman.
And Tim, I know that you at one point were in his office putting these allegations to him for the first time. You're keenly aware of his reputation, of the consequences of publishing this story. What was that encounter like for you?
It was stressful, but it was also enlightening. He had an odd demeanor. At times he was very confident. At other times he was almost pathetic and pleading that we not run the story. But his reaction to some of the questions that I was able to ask and just his body language made me come out of there feeling like there was something to our story. We were obviously confident. We talked to other survivors at that point, and they told such strikingly similar stories. But it was a daunting task going in there, and this guy was an icon in the sports world and the gymnastics world, and here we were the first. At the time, we thought that we were going to make some accusation against him.
Did you worry about the legal consequences? Did you worry about the degree of pushback you were going to get from this guy who was so revered?
Well, anytime in an investigation when you're making strong allegations, that's at the forefront of your mind. And we probably never sleep very well before these stories publish. But, again, this was different. We've had other stories where it was the person, the target, was much more obviously guilty. Here again, we were going in, there was a fear on our part and our editor's part that this would get wrapped up into some sort of dispute about medical terms or obscure medical procedures, and that the victims would be forgotten, that the sexual assault part of it. And that was one of our great fears, even up until and after we published. Would this somehow spin back into some sort of weird medical story, or someone would come forward that would say, oh gosh, you guys got it wrong. He was doing the right thing all along. And so that was a concern throughout. And when you approach somebody like this, like Dr. Nassar, with such a reputation, you've always got to have, I think being nervous is important, because if you're not nervous, you might be sloppy. And the last thing we can do in our work is be sloppy.
I wonder, as you watch these women make their comments in court, knowing that they were broadcast on the cable channels everywhere, I wonder if you feel that added to the power of the moment, because in Canada, we don't have cameras in the courtroom. That experience would never have been seen by Canadians. What value was there, you believe, in letting everybody hear what these women had to say?
And I don't believe without that daily stream of these horrible, brutal, raw horror stories, day after day after day, that people could see on TV, they could see on the internet. Without that, I don't think this would have popped to an international story.
Marissa, I know it's the power of the women's stories and their bravery and being willing to step out and share them that really is why he is going to spend his life in prison. But as a journalist, people can work their entire careers and never have a story like this that has such impact. What does it mean to you to have been a part of this?
As I said, just appreciation that the women trusted us to share their stories, because we were asking them incredibly personal details about the most traumatic experiences of their lives. And the fact that they trusted us to share that information and to share it in a sensitive way, I think for us was really a significant part of this investigation.
It was humbling that we were able to help them and give them a voice to survivors who had been ignored for years or had never spoken before.
As we heard a bit earlier, the assistant prosecutor talked about the value of investigative journalism at a time when journalism feels like it's under attack from all directions. What was it like to hear that said out loud?
I think for me, it was just a reminder that there's more work to be done and that it's important to have journalists in every community who are shining light in dark places and who are paying attention to what's going on and ensuring that, the right thing is being done, even if it's not the easy thing.
And I might just add, we're under assault here in America, the journalism and fake news. And if you don't write something that someone agrees with, we're besieged. And I just think this is a reminder that there is real journalism going on every day, important journalism that's changing people's lives. It may not be pretty, it may not be popular, but it's so important. And I've spent my life, and Marissa has too, being a voice for people without voices, fighting for the underdogs. It's kind of sappy, but that's why we do it. And I think this is just a reminder to people. We don't have to be the New York Times, the Washington Post. We can be a kind of a mid-sized newspaper, but with commitment to doing the right thing and helping people. And that's why we do it, and why we love our jobs.
A real pleasure to talk to you both, and congratulations, I guess is the right word, but on behalf of journalists in this room talking to you, thank you for the work you've done.
Thank you.
Thanks.